Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I know it has been a hot minute and I am sorry about that. Just been kind of living life, doing my thing. But I have a bunch of new videos coming up. And I am happy to say I just saw Dark Phoenix, so let's get into this review. Now, I have been watching everybody's reaction to this movie and basically been telling them to go fuck themselves since. Now, I have read the books that came out for the X-Men franchise, and I've read them before I saw the movies. Like, I've read the X-Men 1, X-Men 2, and X-Men Last Stand. In my opinion, this movie, Dark Phoenix, is actually the most accurate portrayal of the book version of the Dark Phoenix since, Last Stand's attempt. In my opinion, I have not found anything wrong with it. Now, I know a lot of people have complained about the fact that it has slow moments, or Jennifer Lawrence, or lack of scrolls, or whatever. But let's get into this. Now, I am going to do a straight up spoiler review. So if you have not seen the movie, you probably should go see that movie before I say anything. You probably won't see it until Friday when it comes out. Now, me, on the other hand, I have my ways. So, without further ado, let's get into this review.
Dry your eyes, the fuck you crying for? Where's your spine? You ain't got that no more, the dick is fire. That's what I signed up for, but after all this time, you're so damn insecure. You only had one job, nigga. The fuck? You only had one job, nigga. The fuck? You only had one job. The fuck?
Alright, so, this is what's going on. It was awesome. Basically, Jennifer Lawrence was giving kind of one of those, I know they're gonna kill me off. I know I didn't want to be here, but I made a deal, that's why I'm here. But it was good. I mean, it was believable. She was tolerated. You could tolerate her. Trying to figure out. Tolerable. That's the word. She was tolerable. She was there. The Phoenix scene was really cool, where the Phoenix Force arrives in space. That was really cool. I really enjoyed that. It was actually quite awesome, actually. Just to see them in that environment in space and being recognized as X-Men. The difference for me is because I read the book and I also read the comics. Now, in the books, there isn't, they don't go in space. The Phoenix Force been living inside of Jean since she was a child. That was what the book was like. So it's a big difference. And if you guys want to read the book, I'm gonna leave the links for that down in the description below. Check them out. They're amazing. You'll enjoy it. There's plenty of books for, like, Daredevil the movie with Ben Affleck, which the book is probably way better, and which is like the director's cut of the movie. It's a book version that is more in depth, gives you more feel for the character. And there's one for Elektra's movie as well. So I definitely recommend that. I'll leave those in the description down below as well. Now, and when it comes to character development, they kind of skim across it, really. And, dark. They kind of skim across it. They basically have this developed relationship between Jean and Cyclops, where you can feel for the characters and feel the romance in it, but there was no build up to it within the movie realm of it, from since First Class till now. There was no build. It feels like they kind of pushed that together and kind of just said, okay, this is what we're doing now. But for all terms and purposes, it works. It works fine. It's basically just watching it right off the page from the comic book version. So it's not really that big of a deal. It doesn't really change how you feel for the characters. Sophie Turner does an amazing acting job. I know a lot of people have their qualms about her when it comes to her from Game of Thrones when she was younger, and they felt like she was underdeveloped as an actress. But in my opinion, I think she does her job, and I think she does her job well when it comes to this movie. She's very believable. You can see the struggle that is going on inside her head. Now, when it comes to Cyclops, I feel like when it comes to costume design, they did a good job, but I feel like the outfits were made by like amateur cosplayers, like people that haven't cosplayed before, and they were just kind of like throwing something together and then said, hey, let's go. It kind of felt that way with the outfits when it came to the particular X's on the, X suits from the Ultimate versions, but you kind of just look past it and ignore it. It's not one of those things that kind of like pull you away from the movie. Nightcrawler was refreshing to see him go back to a version of which, if you ever saw X-Men 2, I know pretty much anybody has, but if you haven't, you should watch it. In X-Men 2, in the very beginning of the movie, he kind of is going on like this Nightcrawler assassin mode, and it's really cool to see Nightcrawler go through that character development change when he's going through this movie saving characters and then finally comes to have to fight and tries to save somebody after jumping out of the way by teleporting away to avoid getting his own ass stabbed. Jumps back to save the person that was behind him and gets there at the last minute. After teleporting him, he kind of watches the guy die in his arms, and it snaps something within Nightcrawler, and you kind of see the Nightcrawler from the comics where he grabs swords and he starts kicking ass. And this Nightcrawler is pretty cool because he's picking up shrapnel from the train itself and just kind of going on a rampage. There is a particular part I like with Nightcrawler where he is using his tail to kill people. Like, that's awesome. Just to see how strong his limbs are is amazing. He even does like a moment where he's going after the Queen Skrull and kind of does like the 1,000 cuts move where he's teleporting around and cutting her up worth a damn. It's pretty epic in my opinion. I'm not a big fan of the Queen Skrull character. I don't know the name of the actress. But I wasn't a fan of her when it came to her using her powers, mostly because it just kind of felt like a cop-out. She just kind of went around going like this, and people went in pain and died, or they flew, or I guess it was some telekinesis thing going on. Wasn't really discussed or said anything about, so it's kind of one of those things you just have to deal with. Storm. Now, Storm is somebody that's been kind of difficult when it comes to the movies because of the fact that her accent changes a lot. Like, sometimes she has an accent, sometimes she doesn't have an accent. Well, in this one, she has an accent, and it kind of pulled me out of the movie for like a split second because it made me like jump to the MCU to like Wakanda where they had accurate African voices, and it kind of felt like hers was a little forced and unrehearsed. I got over it. I continued to watch the movie without a problem, but it definitely felt like they just kind of like threw that in there for a minute. But Storm as a character is pretty epic. You kind of get to see her use her powers at full extent. You get to see different variety when it comes to her power. Instead of her just sitting there, her eyes turn white and she tilts her head and the weather changes, she's actually giving you realism when she is calling forth the elements. I mean, I really wish I could get like Storm from the animated series from the 90s where she said some shit and then called forth weather changes. That was cool. I like that. I would love to see that in a movie, especially when they pull this over into the MCU. I would love to see that. But in regards to that actress, she did an amazing job. She was believable. She was kind of like Jennifer Lawrence. Jennifer Lawrence had some one-liners that were very feminist, very political. For it kind of felt like they were putting some politicalness in there, but it was alright. It went with the story instead of going against the grain. It went with the grain. So, in my opinion, it worked out pretty well. The shocking death of Mystique is not so shocking because everybody saw the trailer, but the way she dies is pretty gruesome, in my opinion. It's something that'll definitely make you a tearjerker if you're an emotional person when it comes to characters. I mean, not so much for her, but for the character itself. Because, you know, Jennifer Lawrence is basically just going through this movie trying to get it over with. But the character itself, it's heartbreaking to see her struggle to say the one word she hasn't said to Hank the entire time they've been together. That is a tearjerker, for sure. Xavier seemed more like a political figure in this movie. It felt more like he was pushing his agenda forward and didn't really care about those he was putting in danger, because he was more focused on making sure that those children and mutants therefore going forward would have a better chance at life. And it seemed like they had that going on in the very beginning of the movie until Jean started going all Dark Phoenix on everybody. And at the point where she goes all Dark Phoenix, my favorite cameo that had been foreseen coming in and kind of like foreshadowed in Apocalypse was, if you saw the deleted scenes where they were at the mall and Cyclops holds up a poster, a record, and it has Dazzler on it. And she is basically modeled after Taylor Swift. Now, in this movie, you actually get to see Dazzler. Now, that was a shocking twist. I didn't hear anyone even remotely mention that in their reviews. So, that's something that was really shocking and really amazing, in my opinion, because she did look like Taylor Swift. Kind of sound like her, too, but it wasn't her, for sure. It was not Taylor Swift at all. Trust me, I'm a big Taylor Swift fan. I would have known. But they did a really good job at portraying Dazzler and, you know, having a moment where you got to see her and appreciate that moment. They rebooted Calypso, so you got to see her, the human Cerebro. You got to see her for a moment, for her particular moment in time for the movie. She's mostly in the second act, or third act in my opinion. She was really good. Whiplash was in there. They kind of turned Whiplash into a dreadlock having Whiplash, but it works very much so. Seeing that this movie is more kind of like Endgame when it comes to the stages of grief, when you see how Xavier handles his grief and how you see Magneto handle his shock and grief, because the moment in which he continues to ask Jean whose blood is on her when she comes to Genosha for Safe Haven, he continues to ask and she will not answer, mostly because out of fear, because she's trying to get help. And how close that Magneto is to Raven. Now, Hank has more of an anger when it comes to his stages of grief. Him and Magneto have really big anger grief going on, because they straight up go for the kill. They want to kill Jean. They're not going to hear anything else, and it goes into a really good fighting sequence within New York, over by the Hellfire Club, which is awesome that they go back to that particular house for that scene, because that's a real big throwback to the comics themselves for having the Hellfire Club presented. I was very surprised and very happy about that. They did bring in the MRD, which are mutant, I don't remember how to say their name, but basically it's a mutant squad, like Black Ops squad, that come in there and, you know, handle mutants in a more silent manner and kind of take them out, put collars on them and drag them away and put them in internment camps. That was kind of cool to see their little fast cameo. They were in the third act as well. They're in there for a good period. I was very surprised about that. I also like the Phoenix mode. They didn't even like do like, she was doing Dark Phoenix struggle throughout the whole movie, but she goes full Phoenix mode towards the third act train sequence, which is amazing. And I love how they show Jean's fighting with herself throughout the whole movie, and the build up to the realization that family is something worth fighting for, and fighting your inner demons. That is an amazing something to really take with this movie. It's really good. I think that's pretty much everybody in there. Quicksilver was pretty good. I mean, he wasn't in there very long. He had his moments, but he wasn't like a front runner like he was in Apocalypse and First Class. Was it First Class? No, it was X-Men Days of Future Past. He wasn't as a front runner as he was in those movies, but he did his thing. You get your whole Justice League, Superman versus the Justice League moment with Jean and Quicksilver, kind of like Superman and the Flash. It's pretty good nod and a pretty good moment, in my opinion, just to see how powerful she truly is. And just kind of see the struggle of which Jean is going through, and how the Xavier Mansion and students kind of shift in their loyalties when it comes to Jean going Dark Phoenix. It's pretty epic, in my opinion, pretty substantial. I think they took the whole X-Men franchise and put it on its head with this particular movie. I know a lot of people aren't a big fan of it, and that's totally on you. In my opinion, read the books and you won't think so much about it. But like, I read the Maleficent book way before I saw the movie, and I was disappointed with the movie because I read the books first. It's kind of how that works. But yeah, that is pretty much my review for this movie. I feel like they changed the opener from the comics being...
Yeah, I'm in the room.
It's basically a Turner from the comics for when Annie dies and is hit by a car, and she dies, and that's how Jean calls forth attention from the Phoenix. But I think it's really cool just to see her kind of be a powerful entity within her own right before she met the Phoenix. So that was the best thing, I think. But yeah, that's pretty much my review for this movie. If you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments down below. Don't forget to subscribe, like this. If you want more movie reviews or music reviews, let me know. And other than that, I love you guys, and I will see you in the next one.